in which growing maturity rekindles the relationship between one pair of lovers, and self-absorption carries another pair to the brink of death. Chapter 15. The streets were still empty. Levine walked to the Sherbatskys' house. The front door was locked and all was asleep. He walked back, went to his room, and asked for coffee. The day lackey, not Yegor now, brought it to him. He wanted to get into conversation with the lackey, but they rang for him, and he left. Levine tried to drink some coffee and put the roll in his mouth, but his mouth decidedly did not know what to do with it. He spat out the roll, put on his coat, and again went out to walk around. It was past 9 when he came to the Sherbatskys' porch for the second time. In the house, they were just getting up, and the cook had gone to buy provisions. He had to live through at least another 2 hours. All that night and morning, Levine had lived completely unconsciously, and had felt himself completely removed from the conditions of material life. He had not eaten for a whole day, had not slept for 2 nights, had spent several hours undressed in the freezing cold, yet felt not only fresh and healthy as never before, but completely independent of his body. He moved without any muscular effort, and felt he could do anything. He was certain that he could fly into the air or lift up the corner of the house if need be. He spent the rest of the time walking the streets, constantly looking at his watch and gazing about him. And what he saw then, he afterwards never saw again. He was especially moved by children going to school, the gray-blue pigeons that flew down from the roof to the pavement, and the white rolls sprinkled with flour that some invisible hand had set out. These rolls, the pigeons, and the 2 boys were unearthly beings. All this happened at the same time. A boy ran up to a pigeon and, smiling, looked at Levine. The pigeon flapped its wings and fluttered off, sparkling in the sun amidst the air, trembling with snow dust, while the smell of baked bread wafted from the window as the rolls appeared in it. All this together was so extraordinarily good that Levine laughed and wept from joy. Making a big circle along Gazetny Lane and Kislovka, he went back to his hotel again, and placing his watch in front of him, sat down to wait till 12 o'clock. In the next room they were saying something about machines and cheating, and coughing morning coughs. They did not realize that the hand was already approaching 12. The hand reached 12. Levine went out to the porch. The cabbies evidently knew everything. They surrounded him with happy faces, vying among themselves and offering their services, trying not to offend the others, and promising to ride with them too. Levine hired one cabby and told him to go to the Sherbatskys'. The cabby was charming, with his white shirt collars striking out from under his caftan and buttoned tightly on his full, strong red neck. This cabby's sleigh was high, smart, the like of which Levine never drove in again, and the horse was fine and tried to run, but did not move from the spot. The cabby knew the Sherbatsky's house, and with particular deference to his fare, rounded his arms and shouted, "Whoa!" as he pulled up at the entrance. The Sherbatsky's hall porter certainly knew everything. They could be seen by the smile of his eyes and the way he said, "Well, you haven't been here for a long time, Konstantin Dmitrich." Not only did he know everything, but he was obviously exultant and was making efforts to hide his joy. Looking into his dear old eyes, Levine even understood something new to his happiness. "Are they up?" "Come in, please. You might leave it here," he said, smiling as Levine was about to go back for his hat. That must have meant something. "To whom shall I announce you?" asked the footman. The footman, though young and of the new sort, a dandy, was a very kind and good man, and also understood everything. "The princess, the prince, the young princess," said Levin. The first person he saw was Mademoiselle Linon. She passed through the room, her curls and face beaming. No sooner had he addressed her than the rustle of a dress was suddenly heard behind the door, and Mademoiselle Linon vanished from Levin's sight, and the joyful terror of the nearness of his happiness communicated itself to him. Mademoiselle Linon hastened away, and leaving him, went to the other door. As soon as she went out, there came the sound of quick, light steps over the parquet, and his happiness, his life, he himself, better than his own self, that which he had sought and desired for so long, was quickly approaching him. She did not walk, but by some invisible force rushed towards him. He saw only her clear, truthful eyes, frightened by the same joy of love that filled his heart. Those eyes shone nearer and nearer, blinding him by their light of love. She stopped up close to him, touching him. Her arms rose and came down on his shoulders. She had done all she could. She had run up to him and given all of herself, timidly and joyfully. He embraced her and pressed his lips to her mouth that sought to kiss. She, too, had not slept all night, and all morning had been waiting for him. Her mother and father had consented without question, and were happy in her happiness. She had been waiting for him. She had wanted to be the first to announce to him her happiness and his. She had been preparing to meet him alone, and rejoiced at the thought of it, and felt timid and bashful, and did not know herself what she would do. She had heard his footsteps and voice, and had waited behind the door till Mademoiselle Linon left. Without thinking, without asking herself how or what, she had gone up to him and done what she had done. "Let's go to Mamma," she said, taking him by the hand. For a long time he could say nothing. Not so much because he was afraid to spoil the loftiness of his feeling with words, as because each time he wanted to say something, he felt, instead of words, tears of happiness were about to burst out. He took her hand and kissed it. "Can't this be true?" he said finally in a muted voice. "I can't believe you love me." She smiled at these words and at the timidity with which he glanced at her. "Yes," she said meaningly and slowly. "I'm so happy." Without letting go of his hand, she went into the drawing room. The princess, seeing them, began breathing quickly and immediately broke down in tears, then immediately burst out laughing, and running to them with energetic strides that Levine would never have expected of her, embraced his head, kissed him, and wetted his cheeks with tears. "So it's all settled? I'm glad. I love her. I'm glad, Kitty." "That was quick work," said the old prince, trying to be indifferent, but Levine noticed that his eyes were moist when he addressed him. I've always wished for this," he said, taking Levine's hand and drawing him to him. "Even then, when this flighty one took a notion—" "Papa!" Kitty cried and covered his mouth with her hand. "Well, all right," he said. "I'm very happy. Ah, how stupid I am." He embraced Kitty, kissed her face, her hand, her face again, and made the sign of the cross over her. And Levine was overcome by a new feeling of love for this man, previously a stranger to him, the old prince, when he saw how long and tenderly Kitty kissed his fleshy hand. If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe and return tomorrow for the next chapter.